Can you just, oh, is it streaming right now? I just wanted to get
we are live, my friend.
socks.
You
All
are
right.
time to remove your socks, Niraj. Whatever
Yeah.
needs to be done, because we are live. Give us a few seconds, guys. It's live on Facebook, so feel free to, guys, ask questions. We're going to be flowing for 45 minutes, so don't hesitate to share whatever is going in your life, questions, anything. There's nothing you should be afraid of asking. We are there to support. We're rights workers, and that's what we do. So don't hesitate. Give us just a few more seconds.
Okay.
From my side. All right, done from my side. How about you?
Yeah, I'm just sharing it to our group
so while Niraj does that, I introduce you to my life. Here we are in Bali, and Niraj is in Thailand. And I'll share with you in a few seconds about NIRAJ, but I want to say something really, really important. I lead breathwork teacher trainings. NIRAJ leads breathwork teacher trainings, and in most worlds, this would be like, we don't want to talk to each other. Yeah, it's how they're there, is it interesting? Is it serving me, or am I supporting a competition or anything like that? And I can tell you that from the beginning with every breathworker that I meet, that reality just doesn't exist. And I don't know how you feel about it, man, but it's really something that I really love about breathwork, probably more than other industries, that where you feel we know that we create our reality, we experience it, and then after that, we don't live in fear anymore. So, if a brother or a sister is having something interesting, let's hear it, let's connect. And, we are supporting each other on social media, I think with your partner, if I'm not wrong. And life is beautiful. So what do you think about that, Niraj?
No, that's the reason is because breath workers are spiritual. Spiritual in Latin actually means to breathe. So espiritu comes from breath, life. So I think we're very connected to spirit, and we tend to want to abide by some kind of moral code, like a higher purpose, and therefore we don't see things as competition. We see things as cooperation usually. Yeah. It's not everyone that I meet like that, but yeah, definitely.
You know what?
Majority is.
Guys, the thing is, fuck, guys, if we don't listen now after everything that is going on, and we realize that the way we've been operating just didn't work. I mean, it didn't work at a global level. Look at the state of the planet. You can look at it from a political and environmental perspective. If we go away from our little, I don't care. I'm going to be dead. I'm going to be under the ground. I can talk about what I'm doing. But if we look at the bigger picture of things, we just need to acknowledge that the way we've been operating as a species for this planet is just plain wrong. So can we embody something different? The change we want to see, we want to embody it. So I really want to come on Niraj, who's, I'm a bit like a excited little boy today, because I've been following this man for a long time. I admire his depth, his knowledge, his confidence. I admire him as an entrepreneur, a successful businessman. He's been just on an incredible journey, personal and professional, and it's just an inspiration. Beyond the breathing technique that he's sharing, he's doing it and living it. So yeah, well done, brother. Well done.
Thank you, man.
Hats off to you.
Well, you give me such a beautiful intro. I just want to put on my little HRV monitor, because I might be able to show you some cool stuff with this app and breathing.
Ooh, I have the Oura ring.
Because I know you're a bit of a geek like I am.
Yeah. Following it as well. And
cool stuff.
You know what?
I'll show you something in a minute. Let me just get this connected.
So let me explain to you guys why this is important, what NIRAJ is doing at the moment. I tell you why, because many people will be put off by the whole technology side of these things. And I'm completely a geek of that. I tell you why. Every day, this ring is measuring some elements of my health. The number of breaths I take per minute during my sleep. The variation of the heartbeat between each heartbeat, my heart rate variability. And as much as I'm not so interested about what's happening every day, I'm interested in what's happening as a trend. So I will watch it on a weekly basis and say, hey, am I getting better? or I'm not getting better. And it gives me a factual information about how I am. How's my health today? And I can feel, you know what? My heart rate is increasing. My heart rate variability is decreasing. I don't know it yet. I don't have symptoms yet, but I could maybe have an infection. There could be something that is wrong with me. So all of a sudden, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take maybe 24, 48, 30, 22 hours of fasting. I'm going to do some breath holds. And I'd be interested in hearing your position on breath hold versus fasting. And you are much more expert than me, but I have some gut feeling that there is some similarities between the both that I'd love to explore with you. So yeah, tell us what you wanted to talk to us about.
Sure. Yeah. I thought I'd show you some things on the app to do with the heart rate and tapping into the autonomic nervous system. Okay. And you know what the breath is really about is, I believe it's the connection to the autonomic nervous system. So the way we would you know, talk about it from a more of a kind of a, let's say, spiritual perspective. So let's say, where does breath work? Let's talk about where did breath work originate from? Okay, so from all the research I've embarked on my own personal experience, when I got very sick with a chronic illness, I was sick for a year with a autoimmune, and the doctor said, no, stress doesn't make any difference, diet doesn't make any difference. Basically, shut up, take the pills, or you know, have your colon removed. I had ulcerative colitis, and I was bleeding like 40 times a day from my backside. I'd lost like 3 stone in weight, which is like a third of my body weight. It was horrible. I was complete stick insect. And that's when I took matters into my own hands. And they say God stands for gift of desperation. And I literally, that was the time I was the most desperate. And thankfully, someone came to my rescue, a yoga teacher in the UK, was Swami Ambikananda. And she said to me, like, you've got a gift here. If you can change your perception of this condition and see that actually you've got this gift. And if you, with your pharmaceutical knowledge, could, you know, really give people credibility to these techniques, and they work for you yourself, and you get the benefits yourself, then you'd be an amazing ambassador and role model to other people. So it gave me a new purpose in my life. I was a pharmacist, and I was disillusioned with the healthcare system completely. And then I got sick, so I felt what it was like to be a patient. And then I healed myself using these ancient techniques. And in pranayama actually means energy control. That's what she taught me as a foundation, the breath. There's a whole library of different breathing techniques for different applications. But the most revered technique of all in pranayama is called kumbhaka, breath retention. And this has numerous different health benefits as well as spiritual benefits. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But what I was told by the doctor was that stress has no impact. So you can be as stressed as you want or not stressed. And that means that it wouldn't have any difference to my disease. I just got the disease. It just happened randomly. There's no cause other than your genes probably. Therefore, the only thing that you can do is this or that. So what is stress, and why is this super important to actually understanding the role of breath and healing? Well, basically, stress is just information that comes from an external stimuli. Your brain translates that information into a response. So basically, if there is a fear in the environment, a sense of danger, a threat to your survival, then your body creates a fight or flight response in order to defend or attack, run away from that threat. Now, we don't live in the jungles anymore, like where there were lions and tigers and bears, where if we attack the lion or run away, the stress goes away, you know, the threat's gone. We now live in concrete jungles surrounded by so many different forms of lions and tigers and bears. The lions and tigers and bears are now the dead lions from your your boss, the bills you got to pay, the relationships you might have, the media, all of the noise that's bombarded you from politics and like just fear from from all these different sources. And so we never leave that stress. We're constantly bombarded by information associated with stress. So we're just wallowing in a sea of stress hormones. And what that does is it changes how you breathe. When you're stressed, you breathe faster. Okay, you breathe at a rate that gives you more oxygen supply for you to be able to produce more energy quickly so that you can run away or get into battle, right? The body can't tell the difference between lions and tigers and bears and bills, deadlines, and relationships. It's the same thing. It creates the same physiological response. So it changes how you breathe. You breathe faster, and when you breathe faster, you hyperventilate. Hyperventilation, what it does is it causes you to expel carbon dioxide, breathe in too much oxygen, and that oxygen stays stuck to your red blood cells, and that causes oxidative stress. There's a doctor called Helmut Sees, and he basically said that basically there is it's very difficult to live without oxygen, okay? But it's also very difficult to live with oxygen because of oxidative stress, right? So he says that the more efficient we are using oxygen, the better we are in terms of dealing with oxidative stress. So we have less oxygen in the system. Now, if you look at the ancient yogis, yoga was actually created by studying animals in nature. And they realized that animals that live a long period of time, elephants and turtles, for example, they have very slow breathing rates, okay? Like 2 to 4 breaths per minute. Animals that don't live a long time, like rats, mice, they actually have very fast breathing rates, like 20, 40 breaths per minute, okay? But there's a weird anomaly to this rule. The naked mole rat. The naked mole rat lives up to 30 years, and when they tried to give them cancer, they didn't get cancer. They're free of disease, and they live like 30 times longer than normal rats. So they were like, what's going on? They realized it's because they live in hypoxia. They live in a predominantly oxygen-free environment. They can hold their breath for like 18 minutes at a time, and that's the incredible thing about them. So whales as well, they can live like 200 years or so, like crazy amounts. They hold their breath for like 2 hours at a time. So there is something to do with breath hold, breath retention, and your ability to live in a higher carbon dioxide environment. Because when you hold your breath, or when you slow breathing rate right down, you actually increase carbon dioxide in the system. Carbon dioxide is a vasodilator, and it also relaxes muscles with nitric oxide, works with nitric oxide, improves blood flow actually, and oxygen supply to where it needs to go. Oxygen is actually a vasoconstrictor and causes cellular damage, and it creates like an inner fire in your mitochondria, which can actually cause cellular damage and degeneration if it's not controlled. And that's what's happening to people who are stressed. They're breathing too fast. They've upset their ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide. Their pH is, actually too alkaline. They get respiratory alkalosis, which is associated with panic, extra fear, paranoia. And this all turns into a vicious cycle of stress, okay? But if you look at yogis, the Zen monks and people like that, they have very slow breathing rates, and they're very calm, very relaxed. And because of that, they have very good instincts as well. They actually have a very functioning brain, because when you're under stress, your neocortex gets shut off, and you basically become just a reptilian, and you just do instinctive things. But if those instinctive patterns are not very good, you're going to do weird things like that are not good for you. Like you're going to reach for like the cake when you shouldn't, or you'd overeat, you'll drink too much alcohol. You'll do all these things instinctively that are like actually unnatural, because you wouldn't do that in thousands of years ago when you were tribes people. You would have different ways to deal with stress there. You'd go into battle. Now we don't know how to deal with the stress. So we create these weird patterns and habits to kind of mitigate the stress response and bring it down. You know, people turn to drugs, alcohol, things like that. And this turns into a vicious cycle of stress over time. So this was my case. This was my problem. When I was a pharmacist, I was very stressed out, disillusioned. My breathing was all over the place. And here's the thing, what the doctor's trying to tell you here is that you have no control over that stress response. That's what they're basically trying to tell you. Indirectly, they're saying that stress doesn't have an impact on your disease. What they're saying is that we can't control the stress response. That's bullshit. We know that's bullshit. Like over the years, in the last 30 odd years, yogis have been going from places like India to America and places like that under scientific investigation. One of them, famous one, Swami Rama, proved all the scientists in Stanford wrong and told them that actually we can tap into the autonomic nervous system. Very famous person in recent times, Wim Hof, who we both know very well and love and is part of the family. He also proved the scientists wrong. I did the same when I baffled all the doctors how I healed myself from autoimmune and helped so many people around the world. Same thing. And it's basically the understanding that we can switch off stress at will, on command, with just the breath control. We can also switch on stress as well if we need it. And we can use that positive stress response in beneficial ways. Like Wim Hof method is brilliant for this. They're creating a positive stress response, start the day, so you have that extra energy and you can get things done and take on the world, right? Or if you want to climb up a mountain, you can do all that stuff. You know, you can get peak performance states. However, some people do get exacerbation of more stress by doing that method wrong, not doing it correctly, or not changing it to suit their style. So, there's the ancient pranayama ways of doing the similar thing, kumbhaka, with breath retention, which means you can alter it and change it to suit who you are, because everyone's different. So some people have a very sensitive nervous system, others have very robust nervous systems, so they can handle these more intense breathing practices versus the ones who don't. So this is where I've come in a bit, is to bring the breath back to the roots, and I can show you very simply, how you can tap into the autonomic nervous. Let me actually, I might have to change my background.
Yeah, you have a psychedelic background, but it doesn't work when you show your phone.
Yeah, let me just change this.
Before you do that,
yeah.
Okay, no, go ahead. I'll ask.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see this?
Uh-huh.
All right. Can you see the numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So heart rate is 67. Okay. So we've been told that we can't modulate the stress response. All right. I'm going to show you by will alone. Okay. I'm going to, on command, elevate my heart rate by 30 beats per minute, and I'm going to drop it by 30 beats per minute. Okay. Or around that figure. You ready?
Yeah. Go. That's cool. Here you go. I'm doing it with you, brother.
So you see it, right? Okay. So that's just tapping straight in.
Is that your app, or is that what is that going with your?
So this is a Sweet Bee HRV app. It's a really cool app. Actually, we're creating an app in partnership with them right now, which is going to have a few other different cool features that's going to be really useful. Fun. So yeah, there you go. I just showed you, quickly how to do it.
Can you tell us what you were doing?
Of course. So let's now discuss how you tap in to the physiology. So some key things you need to know. Every time you inhale, your heart rate goes up a bit. every time you exhale, your heart rate goes down a bit. Okay. So your heart rate, every time you inhale and exhale is like going up a little bit, up and down. And this is known as your heart rate variability, which is very closely linked to your breath. Okay. And when you breathe in a perfect coherent breath, actually your breathing turns into like a sine wave. Your heartbeat goes into like a sine wave, and that's called coherence. Okay. Like very coherent breathing, smooth coherent breathing, which people do naturally when they are more calm and relaxed. And there's ways you can do that as an exercise as well. Creates a very smooth sine wave. But when your heart rate variability goes off a bit and it doesn't follow your breathing very well and things like that, and maybe so basically your heart rate maybe just stays the same all the time, doesn't fluctuate with your breath. This is a sign that actually you've got serious problems with your ability to respond to stress. So with this app, you can see a good HRV score. The closer it is to 100, the better the HRV score. All right. And it changes throughout the day. Sometimes it's going to be, low during the day, especially if you've just done exercise and things like that, because your body's in recovery mode. But first thing in the morning is the time to measure this on the app. But anyway,
cool.
Going back to what I'm talking about. So when you breathe in and hold, and when you squeeze, there's another aspect of the body, the pelvic floor, the sphincter muscles, also known in yoga as the mula bandha. Okay. When you breathe in and squeeze and contract, okay, and hold, right, you basically send a surge of adrenaline. That's the tap into the stress response where you can create an adrenaline surge. So you can use this in different ways. So you can use this as part of a sequence of breathing techniques to create a positive stress response that can lower inflammation, that can help, strengthen the nervous system and also give you a burst of energy. All right. But when you breathe out, you actually stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and you actually lower your heart rate, and you can switch on the parasympathetic nervous system. So the extended exhalation, breathing out longer than you breathe in, and you can do like rhythms of that. Okay, we use this breathing pattern of breathing in for 2 beats, out for 4 beats with music. That's our SOMA Breath techniques. You actually can switch on the parasympathetic, switch off the stress response, and go into like a healing, like relaxation state, and you feel blissed out. All right. But so it's very simple. So on the inhale, breathing in, holding your pelvic floor muscles, your sphincter muscles, contracting up on the inhale is adrenaline surge. And then breathing out, whereas breathing out slowly through a straw brings the nervous system right down, right? Calms you down. So this is called rechaka. Exhale.
You don't do a breath
exhalation.
hold. You don't do a breath hold at the top. Yeah, you just flow.
No, so when you're breathing in, you're squeezing in and holding.
At every breath, or every breath.
Yeah, no, but you just do it once.
Okay.
You just do it. You're just breathing in and holding and squeezing. That's that's a antara kumbhaka. Breath retention on inhale. So when you do that correctly with the mula bandha, the pelvic floor, you produce a positive stress response. Energy goes up, right? And adrenaline is created. So that's antara kumbhaka. But baya kumbhaka, or slow rechaka, is when you extend your exhalation for as long as you can, and then you hold at the end of it. That's called baya kumbhaka, where you hold your breath after retention. What this does actually, it dramatically lowers your heart rate. Your heart rate goes to go down, and you actually literally press pause on life for a moment. When you do this correctly in the right sequence, and you hold your breath after exhale, you press pause on life itself. And what that does, okay, is it defrags your brain. So when you can hold your breath for long periods of time, this is Baya Kumbhaka, it's like all your thoughts just calm down and reassemble it with more clarity. So that when you actually train yourself to be able to hold your breath for very long periods of time, I actually did this with Wim Hof. He tried one of my audio tracks and he held his breath for like, on the exhale for like 5 minutes. It was insane, like with me. And it was super cool to see him do it. And he was like, whoa, that was so deep, man. Like that, it was great. But so if you do the right sequence of rhythmic breathing, okay, and you follow with the breath retention, okay, what happens is you can hold your breath for long periods of time. And when you get to a point, there's a point where you bring your oxygen levels right down below 90% SpO2, right? I have a pulse oximeter here. This is a cool tool to measure your oxygen levels, okay? And when you do the, even like the Wim Hof method or any of these Kumbhaka orientated breathing techniques, right? Your oxygen levels here, so that's 99% there right now that I've got, will dramatically go down, right? When it goes below 90%, you're in a state called intermittent hypoxia, okay? Lower than normal oxygen levels. When you're in that hypoxic state, that's when the magic happens, okay? And so physiologically, what's happening is carbon dioxide levels go up, oxygen levels go down, okay, for a brief period, and your body goes, oh, I'm running out of oxygen. I must prepare, and it adapts to that state. You produce more red blood cells, you get cardiovascular proliferation, right? So in order for cardiovascular, like new blood vessels and stuff to grow so quickly, and that's what happens during this period, you activate stem cells, endogenous stem cells, which are called very small embryonic-like stem cells. And these stem cells have the ability to have, they are omnipotent. They can turn into any other cell. So they go to areas where regeneration needs to happen, restoration needs to happen, inflammation needs to be lowered. And it also helps grow new blood vessels. So you actually improve your cardiovascular health. What's the number one killer of people? Why do they die young mostly? It's heart disease, heart attacks. So that's actually the number one killer in the world. Okay, not this bogus thing that's being thrown around as a crazy, scary thing. It's actually heart disease. And fear triggers heart disease more. Why? Because you overbreathe, oxidative stress causes inflammation in your blood vessels, causes blood clots, and then you die of the thrombosis, heart disease. So basically, I believe that this ancient yogic techniques was the science of incredibly enhancing your physiology, dramatically improving your cardiovascular health, getting amazing blood flow around your body. And what it also allows you to do is to lower your breathing patterns. So if you hear about the famous yogis, they hardly breathe. They have extremely slow breathing rates, right? And they can hold their breath for minutes and minutes and minutes, all right? And they are very, very efficient in using oxygen. And what do? They go and live at the top of the Himalayas, right? And that's where the oxygen levels are very low. Carbon dioxide levels are much higher. So they've adapted to that environment. Who else shows this as evidence of this being the case? Well, the Nepalese Gurkha army, okay, the strongest army in the world. They're used by the British and American soldiers to win their battles, okay? They're the reason why the British and Americans win their wars, right? And they actually are like Sherpas. They climb up to, from different points of the Himalayas, and they're constantly doing high altitude training. They're going from low oxygen to high altitude almost every day. And that training, high altitude training, which is basically simulating what you do when you do rhythmic breathing, where you get lots of oxygen and then you hold your breath, where you get low oxygen. That's that Kumbhaka technique, which is also Wim Hof method, fast breathing and then holding your breath for long periods. Okay. That's simulating high altitude. And you're getting all the benefits of these people climbing up mountains, going up and down, which we know just by studying the Nepalese Sherpas is one of their secrets to longevity, okay, and being robust right? And that also explains, like, you know, the naked mole rats holding their breath. You know, they're so adapted to using little oxygen that they're not getting oxidative stress, and that's saving them, right? So also the Mexican Olympics, 1968 Mexican Olympics, they were breaking world records left, right, and center. Why? They looked at it and they realized it's because they're training at a high altitude. It's the only Olympics that was at a very elevated high altitude. And they were training there and they were climatized, and that's what made them super powerful. You know, why does Wim Hof love to climb up high mountains, right? He's just so into that. He gets that thrill, the buzz of hypoxia, the euphoria you get of being in that, and that's actually a very euphoric feeling. So when you actually train yourself to be very efficient using oxygen, and you can hold your breath for long periods. So our technique is very much around meditation, actually. I call it a breath meditation, because we train you to be able to go into very deep meditative states. What happens when you hold your breath for a long period? You switch off the thoughts, right? Thoughts are merely inspiration and expiration, right? Inspiration, inspire comes from spiritual, means to breathe in, you know, inspired. You get inspired, you breathe in, suddenly you get that inspiration, okay? And that's where thoughts come from the breath. The first breath you take is the first thought that you get. You need energy to produce the thoughts in the first place. The nervous system is switched on every time you breathe, right? Breathe in, the inhale. So actually, when you actually press pause on that, the thoughts calm down and you tap into a different part of the brain, the unconscious mind, and you can reprogram it. You can actually change your mind by understanding how hypnosis works, hypnotherapy works. So we have created a system of using visualization techniques, guided meditation, music, and breath together. And the breath is timed by the rhythm of the music. So that has another benefit. As I was talking about before, coherent breathing, right? Where you breathe perfect rate in and out creates coherence, where your inhale is the same length of time as your exhale. And that is the magic. So coherent breathing at a faster rate, holding your breath, reprogramming your mind in that state, that can lead to dramatic self-healing, reprogramming of the unconscious mind, and you can actually create some amazing results with this alone. So we have these courses which take people through a journey where at the end of it, they're able to hold their breath for pretty long periods, go into deep meditative states, and really reprogram themselves. So people who are unhealthy, who've got some illness, can actually reverse that. Others who may be suffering from fear and phobias can recondition that cause of that fear in the first place. And same thing with people who want to create things in their life, like be more creative, attract, you know, law of attraction basically on steroids. You can do with these techniques. So what I did was I studied what the ancients were doing and just made it a bit more fun and accessible with music. And I'm a passionate musician, and, you know, I actually produced the soundtracks of the Wim Hof method. Not everyone knows that, but I did that, and that's how we became such good friends. And we made a song together, like Crazy Like a Monkey, as well. It's on his website, and we've had a lot of fun together. So music's my big thing. I've made a lot of music for a lot of therapists around the world as well, like brainwave music. So what we do is we put the breath to music, and it makes it into a more fun kind of practice as well. And yeah, that's the amazing results. So really the key things to take away is, you know, oxygen efficiency is the key, right? I believe. So you actually breathe less over time, not more, because you need less oxygen to produce the same amount of energy. So oxygen efficiency is the key to longevity. Kumbhaka is the key to triggering that, because what happens, that positive stress response trains your body. You adapt to having less oxygen, but what also happens, your mitochondria gets exercised. And that exercise to your mitochondria makes them more efficient, okay, using oxygen. So that's the magic Kumbhaka. Also, the psycho-spiritual benefits with meditation, going deep into meditation, and then the music therapy. The music side can bring in all these other amazing brain enhancing kind of, mood enhancing qualities as well. So that's pretty much like what we're about. That's the method. And there's also so many other techniques you can do with the breath. Like, so in pranayama, like you can actually, switch off stress, you can switch on stress, you can go to sleep, you can actually overcome the fear response. Actually, a little bit on fear response. So the first thing that happens when you're born is you take your first breath. And actually, this can be traumatic for a lot of people. When they're born, the first thing that happens, you gasp your first breath, because before you've been used to breathing through your mother, right, the umbilical cord. As soon as you're born, you gasp, and you don't know how to exhale. You don't want to exhale because you are so scared that this is your last ever breath, right? Because you don't know how to breathe. So your doctor usually slaps you on your bum, and then that gets you to start exhaling and breathing. That's why the doctor slaps babies on the bum sometimes, because they're not breathing. So that kickstarts the whole breathing pattern, okay, of inhale and exhale. So we have a natural tendency to gasp for oxygen when we're scared, okay? And we often don't exhale in a very smooth way. We tend to inhale more than we we put more emphasis on the inhale than exhale, because we're so scared we're going to run out of oxygen, right? So basically, our techniques are all about the exhale. It's about getting you really comfortable with exhaling, long exhales, and holding your breath. And what this does is, over time, it overrides the fear response. You become more calm and you're not easily triggered. Right now there's so many sources of being triggered, and a lot of people ask me, how are you so calm in this crazy situation? There's so much chaos. And I think it's because I've overridden the fear response. Wim Hof's very much about fuck fear, right? He's all about that. And that technique's all about that. And going and doing crazy stuff, jump into an ice bath, things like that, which also has very good benefits. It's like the cold shock, right? But when you do it for the first time, the first reaction you have is to get the fuck out. But when you do something that's totally crazy and you override the first instinctive response, your brain goes, oh, actually, it wasn't so bad after all. So it uses that same response in other areas of your life, and you start to calm down and become a more calm person. And the more calm you can be right now in this crazy situation we're in, the better it is for you and everybody around you, because nobody wants to be around a scared, fearful, paranoid person. People want to be around calm, focused, leadership type people who are going to get them out of the mess and not create more mess. So right now it's more important than ever. You pick whatever breathing modality you choose, find a good guy who can teach you it, and focus on like learning how to overcome fear with the breath, because this is the one thing that's going to make you better and more successful in life than anything that I can think of.
NIRAJ and everyone watching, this is amazing. Thank you so much, man. Fuck, I think that was like 40 minutes. Yeah, that you just, synthesized everything and got us to really get to the essence, not only of your method, but so many powerful life lessons that we can take away and that can really have deep impact. So just for everyone before we leave, just to fix a few things and really just want to take a second and maybe one or two breaths to just show appreciation for you and what you bring to the world, and just showing your heart right here with us. So let's take just one or two breaths together. Beautiful. So, you started with your story about the hospital, and what came to me is that we live in a society where we are told that our bodies are not our responsibility. That, as you said, it's the doctor who's in charge of my body and I'm not empowered with it. And because of that disconnection that we have from ourselves, we tend to, of course, live in fear because we need to protect ourselves. So we need to assess at all time whether we're safe or not. And because we're not educated enough on all the amazing things that you shared, then all of a sudden, anyone who's feeding us elements that can get us to reinforce that fear is getting like an information that we feel is important for our safety. And what I loved about what you said is actually you gave the pathway to that freedom is to shift from fear to love. And when you train yourself with this incredible technique and others, like to shift and to actually train yourself to actually feel, okay, I'm scared right now. I cannot breathe anymore. My heartbeat goes up. I feel the urge to breathe. And you're able through these meditation techniques, through just reconnecting and trusting that the body has everything it needs, and being able to shift from fear to love and from fear to trust and rewiring that, then when fear comes into your life in an uncontrolled, unconscious way, well, now you know what to do because you train, because you do these breathing techniques. And I 100% agree with you. You know, I have my own breathing techniques different from the one you described. And we talked about it when we had a chat before. The truth, guys, and people are always asking me, because I offer all sorts of breathing techniques and I bring people like you to express their technique. Because the truth is, I don't think it matters which breathing technique you do, whether you go for SOMA, Wim Hof, Buteyko, Oxygen Advantage, and then I can name another 100, even shamanic breath work, and you know, the 100 of it. What matters is you develop an awareness about yourself. You find that you create the space and the time to go within, and you set it all. And then, of course, there are all the differences, and you want a really technical. I'm very grateful for those explanations. It also just creates space, so you're not in the future, you're not in the past, you're not going to that. You're all of a sudden, you don't have a choice. You're consciously breathing. And I tend to say that breath work is meditation for dummies. You know, shut up, lay down and breathe. You don't need to meditate. You know, it's very hard to meditate. It's just, you know, as our brother Wim say, breathe, motherfucker. And then you get there. And that's, I think, what is the beauty of all those methods is just get us to go back to our own self, our own sovereignty, and our ability to think for ourselves and get out of the story in the mind, get out of the conditioning. So yeah, this is exactly what's going on. And the world needs people like NIRAJ to really just lead the way on how we can, you know, get out of the matrix, stop believing the things that are happening in your mind, because here is what's going on. You cannot trust your own mind. Facebook is in charge of your mind. Even, you know, now you're accessing new knowledge, that's still a belief. You know, even if it's supported by science, it's just a new set of belief. Don't believe NIRAJ, don't believe me, you know, those are new information. Same with every other information. Just stop, take an inhale, take an exhale, and just feel in your body. How do you feel when you connect with NIRAJ? When you feel this man, when you hear him, how does it make you feel? Do you receive it as something that is opening you up? Do you feel, yeah, that I feel it. That makes sense. Or are you constructing? Because anything that is not gonna serve your expansion will not serve you. And you need to apply that to absolutely everything, every decision you make, any person you encounter with. You know better, but your body knows better. Your mind, no. Your mind is owned by someone else. You know, you can watch all those documentaries, can predict your purchase before you even think about them. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just feeling really grateful. I'm just conscious of the time for everyone. So NIRAJ, tell us really in a nutshell, if you don't mind, what's going on with SOMA Breath. How can we connect with you? And 2 words about, I know you have an amazing challenge coming up in January and a training. Can you give us a few pointers there?
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much, brother. Like, really good to connect finally. Like, I'm sure we'll hang out in Bali soon when I come over. And yeah, like, you're absolutely right. You know, we can't believe everything straight away that we read and see on, you know, on Facebook or the media or whatever. You've got to do your own research. You've got to fact check things. You've got to do your own research. You've got to test them out. Don't like believe the fact checkers either. Don't let the fact checkers do your fact checking. Do your own research. That's super important. And I think if you look at our website, the somabreath.com, you'll see we have a lot of research on there, a lot of science that backs up everything I'm talking about today. And you can also look up on YouTube a masterclass that I have for free, or you can sign up for it on our website itself, where I go into this in a lot more depth, the science and the technique that we've got developed. And with Soma Breath, we're not like a one size fits all method. It's basically we have a tiered approach to the training. So we have the first foundational course, we call it the level 1 training, which is actually focused primarily on breathing, breath work, and the inner pharmacy that you can tap into with your breath. So there's various different breathing techniques and how to use the the breath as a therapeutic tool as well. But then we have a whole master's course. And I'm not into these one size fits all blanket approaches. There's problems when you do that. That's the problem with medication, right? The problem with medication is that they try and put everyone into an average. Okay, so they'll say your average blood pressure for everybody is 120 over 80. Okay, and so actually, if you look at the population, you do a chart, it's going to be more like this, like a bell-shaped curve, right? And what that means, if right in the middle is 120 over 80, is that when you go for a blood pressure checkup, a lot of people's normal is actually outside of that bell, and they're over here. And around 25% of all medical checkups are false positives, because what's an average for the population doesn't mean that's your normal. Your normal does not mean it's the same as your normal. My normal doesn't mean it's the same as your normal. And what happens, we can sometimes overprescribe medication to bring everyone to a normal, which isn't true. That's the huge, and if not the single most biggest problem of medication and drugs. They're not smart, and they try and bring people to a normal. And what happens is then you get side effects, you get problems, and it might be, they may work for some people, but for a lot of people they don't work and they get side effects. So can be the same thing with breath work as well. When it's like rebirthing, for example, is going to cure you of everything and it's going to make you live forever and become immortal and all this. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that it's true. I
think, as long as it grows the hair back, I'm buying it.
Okay, so in pranayama, there is a library of different techniques for different indications and purposes. And when you combine pranayama with actually what really yoga is a system of education for becoming the best optimum version of yourself. And it's also a system of manifesting and magic, in creating magic, actually, if you do it properly. Like real magic, not like voodoo shit, but real magic, genuine transformation, right? When you look at yoga, it's actually a branch of different things. So in Soma, what we've done really is we've created a modernized system that it takes into account these different branches from yoga, tantric yoga. And Ayurveda is one of the most important branches. And in Ayurveda, you understand it's actually a study of quantum science for your body, right? And that is that basically we're composed of energy, different types of energy. And every person has a different energetic makeup. It's called the dosha type, energy type. And using certain questionnaires, you can figure out what your type is, right? And actually, for certain energy types, like very intense breathing techniques are not suitable and can actually make them worse in their disease state or whatever they're in. It can make them more panicky, more nervous, and actually be harmful. Whereas they can be very good for certain energy types, right? So we actually show you how to figure out what someone's dosha type is and how to prescribe a more customized plan for a person based on their energy types. And then what you can do is you have different breathing techniques for that. You have different dietary advice, different exercise techniques. And that means that our trainers are now equipped to help everyone and not blanket a technique for everybody.
Cool.
And then what we also do is we go more into the ancient yogic, higher yogic rituals for taking people into altered states of consciousness, okay? Where you can basically go into these states, or call it the neurosomatic bliss, which is this state of divine bliss that you can create through the breath and different like practices and movement techniques, which can actually elevate you into this absolute profound altered state of consciousness where you can re-clear the clutter of the emotional baggage that's stored in your nervous system for so long. And that's when breath becomes a therapy, more of a therapeutic tool. All right. So like things like holotropic and rebirthing were more like therapeutic tools, not meant to be done every single day. You wouldn't take a massive dose of psilocybin mushrooms every day. I mean, some people do, but you wouldn't. They're more like it's meant to be used as a ceremony, as a special thing. But what I see, one of the mistakes people are making is that they're using this as their normal breathing practice. And actually, rebirthing and holotropic is hyperventilating. You are causing respiratory alkalosis. That's how it works. You actually are, that's why you get all the tetany and all that. You're actually messing with the pH of the bloodstream, and you're causing more stress, oxidative stress on the body. So if you're doing that all the time, every day, you're going to actually mess yourself up, and you're going to have like more of a nervous disorder as well. So, you know, people who get Kundalini side effects quite often is because they've been hyperventilating too much. Okay. But what we do is we train people to be able to do that in the right way and to enjoy those experiences without messing themselves up. And we're all about oxygen efficiency. That's the one thing we really train people on to do the most. And actually, like there is evidence right now, and this is one area I really want to go into. Okay, so techniques like rebirthing, where you're, it's called Bhastrika, basically in pranayama, where you breathe in like this. I believe this is actually a really amazing method you could use. If you use it, like you just do like 30 to 40 breaths where you're doing it for a short time, and you follow with breath retention, okay, which corrects your breath. I think that Bhastrika, what it does, because it changes your pH, it alkalizes you a bit, right? I think it actually can nuke anaerobic bacteria and even other germs, the V's, okay? The reason why is if you look at how hyperbaric oxygen works, it actually shocks your body with a lot of oxygen under pressure for a short period, and it forces oxygen into cells. That's not how Bhastrika works, but what it does is it creates a lot of oxygen in your system. And that's what Bhastrika actually does. It produces a lot of oxygen in your system very quickly, all right? Hyperbaric goes a little bit further, and it actually under pressure pushes it into, like forces it into your cells. But we're not doing that at Bhastrika. But what hyperbaric's very good for, and what it's used for actually clinically, is getting rid of bacterial infections. Okay, where like, so there are certain bacteria which are not very nice, and they're anaerobic bacteria. So they are killed by oxygen. Okay, so when you over exaggerate oxygen into the system, into your circulatory system, I believe you can actually get rid of anaerobic bacteria. In pranayama, there's also a technique where you bring oxygen into your digestive system, and it's used to kill bad bacteria in the gut. It's called Kati Mudra. And you're actually killing anaerobic bacteria that live in your gut. And that's the bad bacteria. And it promotes the growth of good bacteria. So drinking air technique, I call it, right? Which we teach as well. And I think that I want to do more studies myself into this, is that this Bhastrika technique, because what it also does is it clears the cerebral spinal fluid. It actually like flushes your brain of toxins, and it also moves the lymph. So when you do Bhastrika, I think it's a great way to clear the lymphatic system. And if you want to prevent like germ infections, you need a good terrain. So you can actually just like have your own antibacterial effect or antimicrobial effect simply by doing the right breathing. Okay, that's why they do not like, these germs, fresh air. They do not like sunlight as well and things like that. You know, that's why actually being out and about is actually the right thing to do. Not being locked indoors, that's like the worst thing you do for your immune health. Right? Um, so there are techniques for different applications. So Bastrika is a good one for cleansing, right, the system and fighting off germs. But then you have Kumbhaka, you have like Rachaka, you have all these other different techniques, drinking air techniques, which makes pranayama more like a pharmacy. So we teach people the inner pharmacy use of breathing techniques, and then also the more altered states of consciousness stuff, and then the how to customize it and use it in the right way with each person individually. And the results we're getting are incredible, man, because people are customizing the programs for themselves. It's really cool.
Cool, brother. You can see the night
Yeah.
going behind me. We can see some,
Oh yes.
some lights. It's you know, thank you so much, Niraj. The you guys got it. The breath is the answer. What is your question? Because the breath is the answer.
Yeah.
So, and what's amazing about all this is that we have it all, and we always had it. And as often we know now, and we're constantly looking outside for solutions to problems that we have inside, and they don't work. So this inner pharmacy that you describe, as I'm getting under attack now by all those evening bugs,
Oh yeah,
is that, you know, we had it all along, and getting that connection with self and that understanding and self mastery is really the gateway to your soul, and gets you to, after that, own your life and decide where you want to go with it, how you want to go with it. And I think you're on an incredible mission, and I really want to commend you for taking that journey, and all the SOMA breath workers and all the breath workers of the world, because, you know, we live in a day and time where people need direction, and unfortunately the problem is the direction is coming from within, and it's not really about finding a new leader or a new guru or a new method, but just having that awareness that you had all the answers from the beginning.
Yes.
And, you know, I love the situation where we are forced to be inside, of course, despite what you said, because all we need to do is actually go within. I love the idea of wearing a mask because, you know, we need to shut up and listen more than we speak. You know, there are many things that we can take on that. So thank you so much. I will put all the links. I will also add all the research that you mentioned. I want to mention, if you don't mind, Niraj, that I'm passionate about the breath. I live in Bali. I offer online and offline teacher trainings. I've been doing this for many years, called Breathing, called Bali. And it's really that idea of getting you to peel the layers of conditioning through the breath, is getting you to explore all the breath has to offer. So quite something, you know, I think there is a lot of similarities, and I'm sure after this conversation, I will want, if you're open to it, to explore how we can, you know, co-create, because I find so much resonance in both our approaches in a very quirky way. So I offer a 3 weeks teacher training, and with the specificity is that I offer you incredible leaders, about 20. You know, Dr. Mark Cohen, who you're probably familiar with, who's toured with Wim for many years, free divers that were champions of free diving, neurologists. And I bring all these people, movement experts that, you know, and together with the participants, we will create an alchemy, a beautiful co-creation, where at one stage you don't really realize it's a teacher training because it's your life. And most people come because they are on their inner journey, and I'm really being attacked now, but they realize that we don't have to do it alone. And really, that's my message of being here with Niraj and bringing all these people and promoting them, you know, is that we have to let go of the way we've been operating. You don't have to do things by yourself. We can co-create, we can succeed together, we can make the world a better place, and it's not that hard. there is plenty for everyone, you know, and I invite all the people who've done my teacher training to join your teacher training, you know, because I want to join your teacher training. I love to learn. I told my people who are with me, I want to teach and I want to learn. I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to do talks like that are inspiring me, that are making me alive. And that's it, you know, enjoy my kids and enjoy life. But, you know, so thank you so much, Niraj, for your heart, your time, your dedication, what you're bringing to the world. I love how you're dedicated to researching all this. And I look forward to, well, it's getting hard now.
It's incredible, man. It's what a sight.
Yeah. It is. Wow. It is. You know, I wasn't expecting it, but you know, this is Bali technology. So you can see my incredible setup here.
What are they? Dragonflies?
No, they are, what do you call those bugs that eat furniture?
Wow, really?
Yeah.
They all over you.
They fly and they die very soon. They have like a few hours of a lifespan.
Oh yeah.
I wish they were fireflies. I wish.
Yeah.
Or dragonflies. Crazy. But it's okay. I'm getting like a soft massage and just appreciating this. It is what it is. And it's
staying very calm.
You know, life is an experience. Embrace discomfort. Do the things you haven't done before. And it's okay. It's just life. You know, just enjoy.
It's amazing. You're very calm, and I think some people would not be able to handle that right now.
You know,
it's like an episode of Fear Factory, you know, where I'm really standing in a room with a bunch of bugs. You're doing a good job.
You know what? You know, it's because I've been really hard connected to everything you've been saying, and because I'm passionate about all this, I really received it. And I really felt beyond what you said. And I think that's something maybe you guys can reflect now. You probably will not remember most of what Niraj or I shared. You will probably remember how he made you feel. You probably feel, how does my body feel right now? You know, and that will stay with you. And that's what's amazing in, you know, teaching breath work, again, one form or another, is you are changing people's life. You're holding space for people to do their own transformation, to be empowered with their health, with the love. And as you said, you want better sex, you want to lose weight, you want to sleep better, you want what it is that you want to achieve. As you said, there is a breath for it. And it's always been there. And we know it intuitively. We just don't always tap into it. So it'll not take more of time. Thank you again. And I look forward to welcoming you in Bali, helping you set up if you want to come here. And everyone, thank you so much for watching, if you were watching all the way to the end. I look forward to your questions and feedback and comments and anything you want to ask me or Niraj. I think we will all be happy to answer and connect with each and every one.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask a question in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer it. There's one there at the moment I can see, so I'll answer that in a minute.
All right, guys. Have a beautiful life.
Amazing.
Thank you, Niraj.
Thank you so much, Alex. Respect.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Peace.